In this episode, you'll learn the lessons we've learned over the past 3 years training employees and businesses to use AI. We look at how we've evolved our training to match AI's progress and adapt to our specific audiences. We also discuss why showing AI in a company's business context is key for sustained adoption. Welcome to the AI Accelerator for Business show brought to you by 0 to 60.ai, where you get the latest strategies, tactics, and information about the business benefits of artificial intelligence. My name is Carl Ye, and I'm joined by my co-host, Jeff Bradshaw. And today we're going to talk about the lessons we've learned from training so many businesses, so many teams, departments on using AI. And I guess I want to start with like how we train. So we really tailor our training program to the business based on what tools they're using, systems they have in place, where their teams are in general. Usually we have either foundational training for the entire company. We want to level everyone up, have a good base. Sometimes we do training specifically on tools. So, for example, if a company has like ChatGPT for enterprise or Claude for enterprise, we train basics on that tool itself. And then we start getting into a little bit more advanced. So, like a skills workshop, perhaps like a codex workshop, or even agents. And then we have, sorry, not a workshop, it's more training. But then we have what's called our workshops, where we work with a specific department or team, and it's all hands on. We want the team to actually, we're focused on their work and how to use AI, whether it's the tools that they're allowed to use or multiple tools, using it for their workflow. So they, at the end of the session, when they come out of that, they're able to use AI specifically to their daily work, which I feel is a very missed opportunity for a lot of training, because it's a lot of training is here's examples, but I'm like, hey, you need to train it on how these people are actually working on day to day, like their day to day tasks. And we usually see some of that when we do our discovery sessions as well. So just to give a good broad stroke of like, how we train, very tailored, foundational, advanced workshops and so on. But I think like this whole conversation about the lessons we've learned training and what some of the feedback we were getting, and I don't know, Jeff, if you want to start at that off.
What yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting because it's tough to capture it, but I mean, training for AI is different than a lot of training because, if you're working in an accounting department and you've got a system, an accounting system built by humans for humans, and you're just training them on a new computer program that's gonna do it more efficiently, that's traditionally what a lot of training is. We're now talking about a technology that can do things in a completely different way, which I think throws the training into a bit of a twist, and I think, we see some people that you know, just are resistant to it because they don't understand it. And I think we have to, and that comes down to what you talked about having different people at different skill sets, right? You have some people that have really dove into AI and they've experienced it. You've other people that have nothing more than heard it on the news. And so how do you go in to train a group of people where the understanding of the technology is at different levels? So I think that's just us being able to read the rooms and really be able to adjust the training on the fly so that we can make sure that we're
Yeah.
connecting with everybody in the room.
I think it's also interesting that, so I was in Monterey, and we were at a logistics conference, and I was talking to this person at lunch, and he was saying, it's like, I never had any interest in AI until I saw my friend use OpenClaw to do his daily tasks. And I thought that was really cool. And so I kind of picked it up myself and essentially used it. So that person bypassed all the basic stuff and went right into one of the most, you know, some people would think complex, but for that person, it's like not really complex. I just, had AI just walk me through how to set this up, how to connect it to my work and to my life. And I'm just trying to automate as much as I can, which is very interesting because many training systems are base, right? So it's like they're trying to be basic and they want to get everyone on the same page. But I also, for me, sometimes I like to introduce some new concepts because you'd be surprised how some people pick up on those things, just like that person, really quickly. And at times, because AI is moving so fast, sometimes you don't need to go all the way back to the basic. You
Right.
could just kind of like hypercharge yourself to something different if it works in your situation. So that's why we kind of tailor some of this stuff because there's so many different things that you could do.
Well, we always say, I mean, the biggest challenge with AI is not the technology, is the change management. And I think what you just pointed out there, and this is like anything in life, it's kind of the what's in it for me.
Yeah.
I think with a lot of the training, we see people going, okay, fine, I'll do it. You get some people that are really excited. You got other people going, fine, I'll do it because I was told to be here. I think our goal is trying to figure out how we can connect with them to go, here's where you can benefit from this. Here's what's in it for you. If we could teach you this system, it can save you 8 hours a week. So therefore, you can get to those tasks that you never get around to because most people are reactive. Very few people have time to be proactive in their jobs. So our goal is going, can we show you a system that can save you 8 hours so you can now be proactive? And then people go, okay, now I'm a little bit more open to learning this AI technology.
Well, one thing too is with this, it isn't just a one-time thing as well, right? Because like whatever you teach, whatever we've taught 3 months ago, a lot of that stuff, not all of it, but some of it needs to be changed because just how fast AI is moving, right? Things that we've even trained last year in terms of how to prompt or how to provide context to whatever system you're using, that's kind of changed because how the models have become much smarter, so there's changes in how you need to provide that instruction, but also we're moving from, just having conversations and document development to actually like, hey, here's these things that are now completing business tasks. That's a completely different way to think, interact, communicate with whatever AI system that you have in place. That's different. But then you still have to keep training on that because those things are improving at a ridiculous pace too.
And it's interesting because we did a podcast on AI burnout, and I think that can be something else that comes into play from a training standpoint, right? Where people are just like, it's AI, 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 AI,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden you get into training, they're just like, oh Christ, like it just keeps coming. So I think again, it's making people feel comfortable with it, making sure people don't feel stupid, because again, you're always going to get that one person in the training class that they've used it, now all of a sudden everybody else is feeling like, oh geez, I guess I should
Mhm.
know more, I feel like an idiot, so I'm not going to put my hand up and ask the dumb question because I don't want to be felt. So that's our job too, is trying to make sure that we could deal with those people that have the experience, but we also want to make sure that the people that are getting confused with the terminology have no problem putting their hand up and asking the question. I always laugh because I do it all the time with you and Matt. I'm like, I don't get this. Can you guys explain it to me? And
Yep.
you guys are very good at dummying it down for me. When I say that, it's just that most people are fearful. So they'll sit in the classroom and they'll listen, but they won't necessarily act. Our goal is to make sure anybody that comes out of a training can go back to their computer, be confident and excited about what they've just learned and can actually put it to work.
On that, like one of the lessons we've learned too is when we're training, we got to keep focus because it's so easy for us to like we were talking about the new ways people are working, right? So like we're so ingrained into ensuring we're very productive. So like, when one task is, taking it, doing something, we're making sure to essentially fill our time. But with AI now, it's like, okay, I want you to do a task. It's going to go out and do it. So it's like, okay, now you're just sitting here. Do you wait? Probably not, because you're so ingrained to like, hey, how can I best make use of my time? So you're probably going to do something else and something else and something else. But from a lessons perspective, like even us training, when, for example, I'm training on, let's say, Claude for Excel or ChatGPT for Excel, right? And then when I have it execute and, start building out a new tab or work on a row or something like that, there's an immediate, it's like, well, why would anyone want to wait and see this? I'm going to move on to something else to show something else while that's working. And while that's okay for me, when you have people who have never seen this or just barely understand this, to switch from one to another to another to another, that becomes very difficult. And while we think we're training them and showing them, that's really not the case because you actually have to keep focus on the tool. And it's okay for it to be quiet and be like, okay, this is how long it's take to show how it actually works versus, oh, no one wants to see it work. We'll just show the end result.
Maybe but that's maybe something that again we do see that, but I think business leaders need to start to encourage their people to maybe go grab a coffee and take 5 minutes to relax while your AI tool or agent or whatever it is working on your behalf. Because isn't that the point of it? Like, because we see that sometimes people are like, well, now you're just going to expect more out of me because I've got these tools. That's the way we're programmed as humans. And so, I think that that's an opportunity to go, yeah, go for a walk, you
Yep.
know, give your mind a bit of a break. I also think the other thing we've seen too is that I think bite-sized pieces, because we had a client who came to us and said we want to do these 14 modules and we want to give everybody this training over 3 days so we can get them set up. And we're like, well, that's useless because they're going to forget 95% of it. So again, with us with training, it's ongoing. It's like show them something and then give them an opportunity to go back to their computer and test it. And then the next week or the next month, show them something different and let them go test it. Because if we're just downloading all of this information in a training session, people will get lost, people will get
Yeah.
frustrated. Give them some wins, show them something like, and sometimes we forget the basics. Like some people think that they're AI experts, but again, all they're using it for is writing emails and drafting documents. Well, we could show them a couple of other tools where they could actually go and get even a bigger benefit, but let them give them some time to resonate with that and actually use it.
And you're right, 100%, because people need to go back and actually use it for their daily tasks, not necessarily like, here's a generic example of what we could do, or here's how our client used this. It's like, great, another business, but I want to actually time to do it myself in this workshop. And that's why we have these workshops for them to actually test it in their own environment and how they think, because some people, even how they work with AI is very different. So it's like that's what we have to, because one of the things that we have to keep in mind is like, people learn at a different rate, but also where people are in their AI journey is very different. And so even though, let's say, most of the class knows how to, let's say, create a skill, right? There could be a couple people it's like, hey, we need to go back and like break this down again, because okay, what is a skill used for? What is its purpose? Like those kind of things.
And I think that's we make those assumptions again that people understand this stuff. But if you don't use it for a month or two, you might
Yep.
forget how to create a skill.
Yep.
So again, how can you even get that constant reinforcement with being able to, show people and also updating them on new ways of doing that? Like I still go back to this. I still think that it's still the wild west of AI. And I still believe that, with the car analogy, and I always refer to this, is that we're still expecting people to understand how an engine works and what a cylinder is for and what a spark plug does and, all of these things. And I think it's getting better and better to the point where people can turn the key, put it into gear, and drive a car. But you're dealing with a very, very powerful machine. And I still think there's a little bit of that. But it's again, it's getting better and better. But if we can help people understand the benefits that you can go from point A to point B more efficiently, that to me is the big, uptake and benefit with our training.
One of the things that was really effective in some training and workshops is like, can you take concepts and apply it in their work environment? I know it's a little bit more work because, you can have a generic training session, it's super easy. But the moment you introduce it into how they work, their documents, that becomes more relatable. Like I can talk about invoice reconciliation all I want, or I can talk about, brand skills all I want, or writing guide. But let's say I built a skill, as a demo specifically for one company and showing it how it, easily creates their whatever template. That has more resonance because it's like, oh, that's our use case. You understand that we do this and it's a pain for us. Now you've shown us how you can do it. It's not 100% because I made like, I'm doing it by myself and without the business context, but they'll piece that together and be like, oh, I could do this. Like, so I still think you have to show in your workshops and training, how do you get that and how can you show it in their environment?
I also think I think the big thing is when we encourage people to actually use it in their own personal life as well. Because when you talk about it, what's in it for me? It's like,
Yeah.
well, sure, I got to do this because this is my job. But if you can actually get people using it in their personal lives, they're going to see the benefit of what they can do with the technology. And then it's going to be easier for them to go, well, this totally makes sense for me to do my job this way. But and I also think sometimes what we run into too is we get a lot of I'm too old or I'm not
Mhm.
technical. And I don't buy into that whatsoever. Or a lot of people will say, well, those guys are blue collar workers, and I'm like, you know what? Some of those guys are very advanced. They know how to operate their phones. They're not idiots. And I always go to that comparison too, that if you're too old, well, that's like saying that if you're an accountant, you should still be doing all your books every month with a pencil and paper. You were able to figure out how to use a computer because you saw the benefit and what's in it for you. And I think that's the thing we need to encourage people in our training too, is going, we're going to walk you through this and we're going to show you the benefits of this technology. Don't use the old "I'm too old for this" excuse, because I just don't buy it.
Also, when, you know, people are using these tools, when they're learning how to do it, it is I empathize with it, right? Because there's so many to go out. It's like, okay, a lot of times, like, which tool is the best? Because, but that question isn't really which tool is the best to me. That question becomes in my back of my mind, can you just give me one tool so this is the one that I can use so I don't have to worry about anything else, right? Because I'm already busy and I just want to be able to do this. So I think there's a more layers to which tool is the best. Then I only have so much time. I only have so much time to learn. Can you make it easy for me to do this?
Yeah.
Because I don't have. And I also think too, when we're talking about so many different companies, how they work, we also have to take into account how their infrastructure, how their data is connected to it, and their security policies. Because it's easy for us to be like, hey, you should, we can train you on this because this will make your life better. I'm like, and in hypothetically, it could, but in their specific context, maybe their IT team is super, super conservative that they lock down and everything. It's like, I can train you all I want, but you won't be able to use it. So
Right.
how can we meet them where they are? Yeah.
Well, and I think the one thing that we've seen too is the AI maturity pattern, and the fact that kind of stage one is curiosity. If we can encourage that in people, stage two would be experimentation, where they can actually use the tool. Stage three would be productivity, where this they're going to see where it's saving them time, and then there's workflow integration, and then stage five is that transformation. And so it's us working in those stages to be able to get to people where they get to that transformation, because we've seen it. We've seen people start from that curiosity to transformation, and that's where you see a real uptake and people get excited about this, and that's where you see a big difference in people actually using it in their day-to-day jobs and not just using it to create funny memes to send around the office.
Yeah. Well, I think the last thing I want to cover here is like, because we're starting to move into agents and actually completing business tasks, what we've trained on is actually becoming a little different. Because for the most part, initially what we've trained on is, how to have conversations, how to communicate, how to provide your context, how to prompt correctly, all that kind of stuff. The features surrounding conversation, right? The features about like if I like it'll create for me documents, right? All that stuff. But then now we're into, hey, I want you to actually complete these tasks for me. And I think that's a completely different way to think about things too. And I just know, like, even for example, yesterday when we were, doing that 1 hour training on Codex, you can kind of see it's like, it's a different way to work now. And your mind, you have to be aware like this is for a lot of people a completely brand new experience. No matter how many times we demo it, it looks cool, it's fine. But I think every single time I've had someone actually, whether it's a Claude Code, Coworker, or Codex, being able to connect to their specific system and seeing it, oh, I didn't know that this is how powerful this thing is. This like how many times like I feel I just got a superpower. It's like, yeah, you got a superpower, but like you have to be very responsible with said superpower because our infrastructure is not designed for this new thing. Like
Yeah.
I had a conversation with an IT team this morning and they were very concerned about like, you know, what if this thing deletes this? What if this goes into email and does this? And like, how do we protect it? But there's no way to protect it because really there's some companies working on it, but how do you configure it again with our business environment?
But with training, and I think so I think my message is that AI training, I think is a I mean, every company should be training their employees. And I think it also is not just their employees, but they should start with their executive teams. You should start with training your executive team so you understand the benefits of the technology, but also some of the downfalls, because there's a lot of misconceptions out there as to, oh, I can't upload any financials because my competitors are going to get it. Well, that's not necessarily the case, but you also have to, when you get into things like Codex and Claude Code and agents, there are some potential risks. But if you understand those risks, you're better off to be able to make the proper decisions to not just completely avoid the technology, but to use it to your advantage, but use it safely and securely.
And one thing to remember, like, and the one big lesson for us is that the assumption I'm having is like, okay, everybody's kind of in the same space in general where people are, using whatever tools. But it's interesting because we had a training out in Saudi Arabia, and for the most part, the training was even more rudimentary. And I think we have, if you are a business that's like maybe not in North America or somewhere else, or planning to train, that in itself is like you can't not just have like a North American mindset. One lesson for us, like around the world, people are in different places, much different places. And their tool use is different, right? Because we had to work around an on-premise system that they built entirely because of data sovereignty. So like, how do you train that? And there's still some principles that you would go about, but again, with how fast things are moving, it's also interesting how it's either I hate saying left behind because there is no left behind. It's just different. Where you are in your journey is different because of how where you live too. I thought that was an interesting observation or a lesson, from training that group.
No, absolutely. Again, I think it's one of those things. It's required. It's part of business these days. So I think that it's, and again, I think that you want to make sure that one final point that I had was that also I think the difference between the training that we provide versus a lot of the training that's out there. There's a lot of training that says, here's how you use a large language model. I think the big difference, and you mentioned this earlier, is that, we actually build the tools. We use the tools on a daily basis. And I think that's a big differentiator because there's tons of courses out there. There's free courses online that'll tell you how to use ChatGPT or Claude, whatever it is. But when you want to actually apply it to your business, you want to make sure you're working with a group, which I'm proud to say we are, that actually uses these tools and implements these tools because we understand the actual implementation. Like we actually do. We don't just talk about it.
Yeah, and I think the one thing to add to that is like we've implemented not just for our use case, for actual daily work that goes beyond just simple content creation or simple like checking your email. It's like, hey, we've actually done like operational supply chain, like those kind of things that people are actually doing on a regular basis, whether it's extracting attachments from emails and then, putting them into spreadsheets or even now having tools go into unique niche software specific for an industry, you know, extracting that, whatever format it's in and then doing the work in that. That's those are the things that we try to keep up on because that's what most businesses do. Learn more about AI training and career development by watching these videos here. Enjoyed today's episode? Want to learn how AI can impact your business? Then please subscribe to this channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.